I have known Val Morningstar for probably 30 years, probably 30. Back in her massage therapist days. She's going to speak to us today on the magic, pivots, and miracles of a cancer through healing. She's a Universal Life Church minister and metaphysician. She is a retired licensed massage therapist, amazing massage therapist. I know I had at least one massage by you, Val. And taught at UNM Taos and at New Mexico Academy of Healing Arts in Santa Fe. She's trained and facilitated women within circles, creating safe and empowered environments for women to do their personal work together since 2004. She earned the position of Sweat Lodge water pourer, is a Chanunpa Sacred Pipe Carrier for 28 years, has done 7 Adyashanti vision quests, has been a sun dancer in the Lakota tradition. She continues to lead prayer circles, clear and bless land and homes, facilitate unique weddings, and create all kinds of initiations. Along with her ceremony offering, she offers wisdom way sessions, mind, body, spirit counseling. She's been in Taos since '93 when I first met her, where she found her soul home. And we are very blessed to have her here today. Thank you, Val.
Val, would you be more comfortable with a taller chair?
I think I'm going to start off standing.
Thank you.
Cool. You do whatever you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I should pay attention.
Thank you.
Hi. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes. I've never used a microphone before, so it'll be interesting. I have a few notes here just so that I don't get lost sometimes. So I want to start off with just a brief invocation for myself. We'll call upon Great Spirit, the Great Mystery, my higher self, my soul, to transmit even what I may not even have prepared to say, to share light and love and the power of healing. So it is. So I want to share a little bit, the title of my talk is Magic, Pivots, Miracles, inspired by a cancer journey. And that was my cancer journey, but I don't call it mine because I never wanted to identify or claim the disease as mine. And I'll share a little bit more about that. And a pivot for me is whenever I find myself in wrong thinking, to kind of take a moment and shift. And when Jenny read the purpose of Community of Love, still not call it unity, it reminded me that in my experience this summer and in my life, that the first step of all healing for me is in my consciousness. So what is consciousness? Who really knows? Yet for me, it's my thoughts, it's my beliefs, it's my heart. And I've had to do a lot of shifting and correcting in my life for sure. To give you a little background, I was thinking about this morning when I was sitting in the sun, and I don't know how I got on my path. That song was perfect today. When I was 14, I was drawn to a Tree of Life bedspread. How did I know about the Tree of Life when I was 14? When I was 18 or 19, I moved in with a high school friend of mine because her mother had really severe arthritis, so much that it was twisting her spine, her fingers, everything. And somehow, and I'm trying to get a hold of this friend, somehow we got the idea that we were going to put her on a carrot juice fast and do enemas. Here I am, like 17, 18 years old. moved in with her for a summer, and we started doing this, and it changed everything. And I saw this woman's body, her spine started to move back into alignment so quickly that the skin couldn't catch up with it. And it was the beginning of natural healing for me. I really didn't know it at the time. And then I found myself, I was born in Catskill, New York, a half an hour from Woodstock, the place of the concert originally, but they used the name. But anyway, I found myself in Woodstock as a 21-year-old, and I was just like, it was so different than my hometown, a half an hour away. There were health food stores, there was massage, there was holistic ideas, there was a metaphysical bookstore, music, live music. I just felt so blessed. And I became a vegetarian at the time. And I was a vegetarian for 15 years in my early life. And then moving to Taos, I don't know what it was, the elevation, my body, but I started eating meat again. And I continued till about a year and a half ago, and I felt like I needed to let go of that again, and so I became a vegetarian again. And throughout all that, I found a lot of personal transformation tools. Living in Woodstock, I found something called the EST training, EST. I don't know if anybody knows of that. Anyone?
Yeah.
It was, a couple people. Yeah, for me, it was my great awakening. It was 2 weekends of just blowing my mind. And one of the things I'll share about it is they told us that this is how we go around in life. We have this shield of who I want you to think I am, and then we have who we really are. And then back here, we have like this 1,000-pound bag of our baggage. And we go around life like this. So the weekends were about dropping this, dropping that, and standing in our authenticity. And that at age 21 really gave me a basis for the rest of my life, of working on my thoughts, working on my beliefs, and really letting go of some of the culture and conditioning from my culture and from my upbringing. So I wanted to start by asking how many people here have had cancer? So quite a few. And how many people know someone who has been dealing with cancer? Yeah, pretty much everybody. Yeah. So how this all began, I turned 65 last year, and I decided not to take Medicare, because I really needed that $175 a month. My husband passed away about 4 years ago, so having a home and all this, I was really wanting to. So that was that was July. And then starting in like January, February of 2024, there was this little voice, you know, that little small voice that said, "You need to sign up for Medicare." I was like, "No, I don't. I don't want to do that. You need to sign up for Medicare." So in my life, I know that, how many times have I not listened to that little voice, right? All of us. And often just go, "Oh yeah, I knew that. I knew that." I mean, so much, right? So, right, these last few years, it seems like our intuition is really coming on board. It's like we just know what we know. So I decided to listen to that small voice, and around March, I signed up for Medicare. Little did I know, I was really gonna need it. So, over my life, I've done juice fasts, I've done fasting that takes like one kind of juice for every organ and cleanses and giving up this and elimination diets, and I got sober in my mid-20s. That changed my life too. And so here I was, and I had seen a practitioner share about having fibromyalgia and how she has healed herself. And I was like, I think that's what's been going on with me. So I sought her out, and I decided to do my second, at that time, parasite cleanse. And this parasite cleanse was not like the first one I did. I actually had worms coming out of me. It's pretty gross, but better out than in. So the plan was to do 10 days of the parasite cleanse, take 2 weeks off, and do another 10 days using products. I had to become vegan for a month or so and stay vegan for the cleanse. So I did the first 10 days, and I was in my 2-week break when I started having pain in here that was unbearable. It got so bad, I called my best friend, and by the time he got across town to my house, I said, "You gotta take me to the ER." So I get taken to Holy Cross, which I found out is not a hospital anymore. It's a medical center. They had to put me on morphine to be able to control the pain. It was that bad. And so they did some scans, and I don't want to really focus on the medical stuff, but it's important to kind of bullet point that through the talk, because the medical process I was in gave me opportunity to heal. So I was very drugged, right? And dealing, I barely remember talking to this doctor. And of course, one of the things he said after looking at the CT scan, he used the word mass. Bing, first opportunity for me to decide how I was going to think about that. So he sees a mass. And right in that moment, like, who knows how or how I got there, but I chose to just put it over there, like hold it lightly. I had been familiar, and I know some of you, definitely Jenny knows Bruce Lipton. He's wrote the book Biology of Belief. And I read that 15, 20 years ago he may have written that. And that really struck such a resonant chord in me that not only do I create based on my beliefs, but my body, as a longtime massage therapist, my body is listening to my thoughts. And the body, in my experience and in my understanding, doesn't judge. It's like this neutral, beautiful vessel. But if I do judge something, then it's going to hear that, and it could create that. So when I heard mass, I said, we'll see, kind of thing. And they sent me home. I was supposed to see a local OBGYN the next day, but of course, it took like 3 weeks, right, to get that appointment. During the parasite cleanse, one of the things that came to me, because I was thinking, the first time I saw this worm, come out, I was like, oh, so grossed out, that I was thinking, how can I change my thoughts about them, So I was thinking, they're just trying to survive. They may be a different consciousness level than I am. So I decided to do the Ho'oponopono with them, which of course in a simple thing is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. So doing that process really started shifting my own thinking, because instead of thinking of these parasites as something that was attacking me, I decided, I've given you life for many years now, probably. Enough is enough. I bless you, send you on your way, right? And I guess, you know, that moment when I chose to not believe or receive that word mass, was my higher self. That's the only thing I can think, you know, the great mystery already starting to work. And what I did was, when I came home, I wrote myself this card. Because I thought, something's going on here. And so I wrote, and this was in May, everything is happening for me to assist me to step fully into my heart and power so I can live the life I truly desire while in this body, on this planet. I am in my soul's loving hands. And I kept this in my kitchen and I read it all the time. Because like we know, this thought machine up here needs constant work and constant reaffirmation. So at that point, waiting to go to the oncologist, the OBGYN, I mean, I decided, you know, I've lived my life knowing I am physical, mental, emotional, spiritual being. So I am going to start working on this on all levels of my being. So I reached out to a woman that I was in a woman's circle with, who was an energy healer. And we set up an appointment. And much to my initial surprise, but then it was like, no, this makes sense. What we were able to pull out of the second chakra, right, where this thing was a lot of my past sexual experiences that I never really dealt with, and a lot about women's power. And so I had to work a lot on just releasing the past, right? Trying to get present always. And when I went to her, well, okay, so in '93, I went to my first Sundance, and I got hit by lightning. And that's another whole story. But what happened during that day when I went to see this energy worker was a day like today, beautiful sunny day. I get in her space, she pulls a couple cards, I lay on the table, we start to drop in, and I hear this rumbling from the distance. I hear the thunders coming in. And within 15, 20 minutes, it was pouring rain. It was pouring rain. And I've always loved the thunder beings, but I didn't understand until that moment that not only do they love me and come for me, but they are a part of me because they hit me that day and they gave me something which, you know, I've been forever trying to understand. And so there was a big healing that day of realizing that this beautiful power that brings us electricity into the earth's aura and rain, the water of life, was part of me. And that was one of my big pivots during this healing. Always a humbling experience, right? So in those 3 weeks of waiting for the doctor, I was not able to manage this pain. They told me to take ibuprofen and Tylenol, and after 2 weeks, I just took myself back to the ER. And geez, time goes by quick, huh?
Yeah.
And decided to say a prayer as I was driving there to bring in spirit. And what happened was I got an MRI in the hospital that day, and Lorenzo, who came for me, says, this never happens that we have a cancellation. And I said, well, yeah, it does when you pray and when you call it in. It can, as long as I'm not attached to it, right? So that's another beautiful miracle that happened, was I got a MRI that day. So because of time, I'm gonna skip through. So I ended up, the local doctors said to me that my fallopian tube had twisted 3 times. That's probably what caused that big pain. And my right ovary did not look so good. So she gave me a choice: have surgery with her, take those 2 things out, or go to UNM in Albuquerque to an oncologist. And I was like, I'll go with you. And so she was going to go in and do that. When she went in, she said she thought she saw what was cancer. So she went in and came out and referred me. When I was still coming out of anesthesia, she's, here I am in this fog, right? She says to me, Val, I'm so sorry, but you have stage 3 ovarian cancer. And I was like, okay, we'll see. We'll see about that. And then, I started to get into the medical system even more. Basically, what I chose to do, I had to wait a few weeks there for surgery. I had heard about an anti-cancer, anti-parasite protocol, which was 2 cheap medications, which is ivermectin, fenbenzidol, vitamin C, and baking soda. So this virologist guy, this man who studies viruses, came up with this protocol, 20 days, and I said, you know what? People have been released from Western medicine and healed themselves with this. So I'm going to try it. Why not, right? So I do that. I had 23 days from my first surgery to my second surgery, and it was a 20-day protocol. So I did it, and all the while working on my beliefs and always holding I don't know if, I'd walk around my house going, do I have cancer? I don't know. Anybody who gets a diagnosis is like, well, it's never going to happen to me, right? We all go through that. And yet, the big thing I think we all, well, for me, I needed to deal with was my fear of death. Because I was like, well, maybe I am going to go this way. This is an interesting time in the world. We're all making our choices, where we're going to be, stay, ascend, not. So I had to really look at that. And I've been dealing with that most of my life. I think it was in some astrology charts, like, yeah, you've got to deal with your fear of death. I was like, yeah, no, too. So I did as part of my healing. Because really, what can we do about it? We're going to go when we go, we're powerless. It's a soul thing, I believe. So more magic is being a widow and then being so solitary in my life through COVID and all like that, like a lot of us have been in the last 4 or 5 years. I had to reach out for help. I had retired from massage that January a year ago, like yesterday. And so I had to really stretch, and it's hard to ask for help, right? Well, is it hard? There's another belief, right? No, I have to ask for help, knowing I may not get it, but if I never ask, I'll never get it, right? So I started reaching out. Here, I didn't feel like I had anybody. I have one best friend. 3 days, I had 3 people. Within 2 or 3 weeks, I had like 32 people willing to help, right? So another beautiful lesson of just knowing that when you need people, they show up. So I'm preparing to have a full hysterectomy. They wanted to take my omentum, which I didn't even know I had one, which is this little fat pad that lines your abdominal cavity. It has a lot of lymphatic, and then take a few lymph nodes. And I really didn't want them to take this omentum thing, and I didn't know why. And I kept saying to her, "Do you have to take that? You know, like I don't want to do this, you know." And my deal was, I had decided, I watched my dad pass of kidney cancer finally, and it spread. And I decided I'm not doing chemo. I don't care how scary it gets, I am not doing chemo, and I'm not having radiation. So for me, the surgery was 100% of my treatment. So I signed off on it. So I had the surgery. The team comes in and says, "You know, we had to downgrade you to low-grade carcinoma." And I'm like, "Well, what's that?" And she said, "Well, that's not stage 3. It's pretty much like abnormal cells." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's really cool," you know? But we had to wait for pathology. So a couple weeks later, I go back down, pathology report, sitting in the room, and she said, "Val, you don't have cancer." Of course, I burst out crying. And she said, "You know," and we were all scratching our heads. We didn't know how this happened, but you don't have cancer. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, wow." You know, and I went sobbing out of the place in such gratitude, and gave my gratitude to Creator for keeping me here for a while. And as I had to go back post-pathology report and talk to the psychologist, she wanted to see me every 3 months for 2 to 10 years. And I'm looking there, I go, "Why? You said I'd never had I don't have cancer." And she said, "Well, you know, we don't know what to call it, you know." And I said, "How about every 4 months?" She said, "How about every 6 months?" And I said, No, I said, "How about every 6 months?" And she said, "How about every 4 months?" And I said, "I'll do that one time, and then we'll see." So we have to empower ourselves when we're in the medical system, because they're gonna just tentacle us and keep us in the system. And I was like, I wanna get off this thing. So, I was supposed to see her, that appointment was supposed to be December 17th. And I got that bad chest cold that was going around, so I canceled it, which is really what I wanted to do anyway. But I kind of want to look her in the eye and tell her that I'm not going to be a patient. You know, there were so many miracles that happened. One day I was desperately seeking melatonin, and my neighbor had some, and I went outside to wait for her, and I was sitting on this little wall, and I had my head down, and out of the ethers came this hummingbird, like this, one circle, and another one came the other way. And the first one almost took off my nose. It came so close. And for me, hummingbirds are all about joy. And because I was so tired, and yet I couldn't sleep, you know, you have all those drugs in you and your body's like chaotic. And that happened, and I went, "Oh yeah, joy. I have to remember joy." And to this day, you know what was so funny is that the melatonin, when I brought it in the house to look at it, my neighbor had given me some that had expired like 4 years ago. So, I mean, if it was a few months, I would have taken it, but 4 years, and what really had to happen was for me to get out on that front porch So those hummingbirds can heal me, can create a frequency of joy in my energy field, and I'm getting goosebumps. Affirmation that you too. So, I mean, such a journey. In my life, I have had so much magic, so much connection to spirit in the elements, in the animals. Thank God for my Native American path of 35 years that broadened my awareness and consciousness of all that, so that when things happen, I look up, oh, there's an eagle, or there's a hawk, or, like watching the universe trying to communicate with me and trying to get my attention. So, I'll never really know if it was a misdiagnosis or if that protocol really worked. So how I'm deciding to hold it, and I'm doing this protocol, I've already done it 2 more times, because I had some scattered cells in my abdominal cavity. And I thought, just to be sure, I'll do this protocol every 4 months for a year or 2. And I feel like even after doing it 3 times, the last piece of my work is really unhooking from this medical system and releasing every little last tiny bit of fear that I still may carry. I'm so blessed, and somewhere the picture that I used for today's talk said the final stages of healing is to use what you learn to help others. And I knew, because going through the ending of this, I was thinking, why did this happen to me? But, I never did have cancer, or cancer got healed, or like, why did this happen to me? Well, it's been to still do ceremonies, and Spirit has decided to give me the whole year off last year. So I'm grateful, I have a beautiful home. I have what I need in each moment, and that's as far as I'm letting my mind go, is just staying in the now. Right now, it's all good. So I think the last thing, does people know Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe? Yeah, he's an amazing being. And I did a meditation about a month ago, and he shared this at the end. And he said, well, it's kind of an invitation. So we go from philosopher to initiate to master. We go from knowledge to experience to wisdom. From mind to body to soul. From thinking to doing to being, to learning it with your head, applying it with your hands, and knowing it by heart. So I love each of you, and thank you very much for hearing my story.